At the time, I'm like, I had every TV show in the country calling me. I think Dr. Phil, like, personally left a voicemail on my house voicemail. And, like, you know, Good Morning America, every show wanted me on. I chose to be on 60 Minutes because I thought it was the most prestigious of all the TV shows. And I wanted an opportunity to kind of do some damage control on my reputation.
High school matters. Come on, let's talk about it. Welcome to High School Matters, the podcast dedicated to conversations that I have with my former high school students. My name is Randy Appel, and I've been teaching high school since the year 2000. And this podcast really started because during the COVID pandemic, I had all this free time. So I started to reflect. I started to reflect on my life as a parent, as a teacher, and I started to think, how great would it be if I could reconnect with the students that I lost touch with over the years and kind of catch up, talk about high school, talk about things in high school that actually mattered to them then, but also that still matter to them now. And honestly, this podcast took on a life of its own. My conversation today is with a former student of mine named Sam Eshaghoff. Sam Eshaghoff has gotten national attention as he was the kingpin, the leader of the SAT cheating scandal that took place at Great Neck North High School in 2011. But today's conversation is so much more than that. I had Sam 2 years in a row in my chemistry honors class and then my AP chemistry class. And then I wrote his college letter of recommendation. But to be honest, our first interaction was not so positive from Sam's perspective. He hated me. But now, obviously, here we are talking. Something's changed. Let's just go right into it. I hope you enjoy this very first episode of High School Matters. All right. You ready?
I'm ready. You ready?
You excited?
Yeah, I don't even know what this is about.
Oh, we'll find out. So here's what I want to say about you. You were a really good student of mine. You were a smart guy. You had a really good sense of humor. You kind of got me in a way that others don't. I always remember you laughing in class, and you were just like a solid guy. And I know by saying that, I'm actually being a little controversial because your story is pretty controversial. So when I was thinking about like that, I was excited to see you because you're like a good guy, and I was excited to reconnect. I was like, wow, what does this guy think that just by a teacher saying they like you as a kid or as a person is controversial? How does that make you feel?
I think that's a good question because I know I wasn't a favorite to a lot of teachers.
Okay.
Especially the squares, the square teachers. Because, my identity in high school, I was a troublemaker. You know that.
Yeah.
I kind of operated in a way that was against kind of what school is supposed to stand for. In
many ways, yes.
I don't think I was ever a bad guy. You know, I tried my best to be a good dude and get along with people and get good grades. But, school was a little boring to me. So I fucked around a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm relieved to hear that I didn't piss everybody off. That at least some people like me. Some teachers, you know.
What year did you graduate?
2010.
You graduated 10 years ago. When you think back to high school, do you think fondly of high school?
It was the best time ever, man.
Do you really feel that way?
I really do.
Really?
It's cliche. You know, you grow up and people, they're like, oh, I got so many responsibilities now. It's nothing like being a kid. But really, I think our high school was like super fun.
It was.
We had good characters. Our grade was just full of, we had troublemakers. We had different cliques. We had, a lot of different identities. But it was just so much fun, man. And yeah, back then, I feel like, I don't know, you were an adult then and now. Me, I was a kid back then. And I felt like I was like a cowboy walking through those hallways. I just do, every day was an adventure, man.
That's so funny you say that. That's true. So one of the things I like to do when I talk to kids is to kind of get you back to your high school days. Like you said that you think so fondly of them. It's kind of nice to kind of like escape from this, like, we're in your office, escape from like the reality of the world and life and get back to the days where even though things seem to matter so much, they didn't matter as much as they do now.
Sure.
So now I want to get back to our first introduction. I think it's important to give context. Biology was the first class you took as a kid, And biology was very easy. For freshmen, it was very easy. And someone like you who was very smart, you must have done really well in biology.
Sure.
And then you come into, you decide to take honors chemistry with me. It's funny thinking about it now. You know, I probably, you graduated 10 years ago, so I had you for the first time 13 years ago. Sophomores are a weird breed because, you're not the new guys in the school anymore. You're not upperclassmen. So it's almost like this forgotten year. But you come in with this cockiness and confidence, especially you probably did because you did so well in bio. Now you're in this honors chemistry class, and I knew the psychology behind you guys. And I purposely made class really hard in the beginning. If you ask anyone now who had me for a full year, one of the common things kids say to me is that I low-key care about them. Do you understand what that means?
Yeah.
Does that resonate with you?
I think so. I think we had a love-hate relationship, you and I.
Yeah.
I wanted to kill you sometimes, man. I wanted to drop out of your class.
Exactly. So the low-key caring is something I always found to be actually a compliment, because it's like if a guy's dating a girl, for example, if a guy's like a jerk, like everyone knows the guy's a jerk, but then like when the guy's nice to the girl feels this special, like almost empowerment, right?
Right.
You understand that?
Yeah.
So I almost felt like I wanted to come off in the beginning as this like guy who didn't care, who was really hard, who was kind of like a jerk. But then when you needed it most, I was there for you. So it kind of gave you a little bit of like, whoa, he really does low-key care.
Yeah, low-key care.
Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Do you try to have like individual moments of like empathy with these students?
Absolutely.
And like even like you said, the jerk in high school who has this one quiet moment with the girl. Like, do you make them have their special moment on purpose?
I try. It sounds so poetic, but it's not. It doesn't always work out exactly the way I'm making it. But like that's just like my overall persona. And plus, now I've been teaching for 20 years, so like I have a lot of experience with this. So like I know it works now, and I know it doesn't. So that just worked for me. Look, we're here now talking. So, you started off hating me and now here we are.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the part where I had probably my favorite interaction ever with you. And it was not even a real interaction in a way. So here you are, this sophomore who's cocky, doesn't realize what he's about to get himself into with me in my class. And you take your first test and you probably failed. And you're like, whoa. This teacher must be a jerk. Like, it can't be me. It has to be the teacher. Then you take your second test, and I envision you probably failed again or did poorly. And for you, failing was not an option because you were a smart guy.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that?
I'm like, this is bull. Like, this is not fair. Like, these tests are like unnecessarily difficult. This guy's just I don't know if he's an asshole. I don't like. And there's other smart kids who are also failing. And
right.
We had like a little coalition. We're like, what do we do? Do we tell the principal? Do we egg his house? What do we do?
Is that what you thought?
How do we make things even?
Oh my God, that's too funny. All right, so now let me explain what actually happened. We're in the third test. We're 7 minutes in. You hand in your test and walk out. 7 minutes into a double period test. Okay. I was like, all right, this kid probably wants to drop my class. I'll convince him not to. You leave. You don't come back. I give my test. 73 minutes later, I go back to my office. I see there's a note on my desk. And you wrote me this anonymous note, and I have the note. And I'm going to read it.
Is that it?
It's it.
No.
So do you remember this, by the way?
Dude, vividly.
Vividly. Wow. Okay, good. I'm glad you vividly remember it. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read a good part of it. So this is what I see on my desk. Mr. Appel, from one of your chemistry honors students. This memo will be used to complain about your teaching style, provide insightful suggestions, and have you think about what you may be doing wrong as a teacher. What an intro. What an intro. All right. As you may skip down to the bottom of the page to see who wrote this letter, you will see that the dispatcher's name, big word, big word, the dispatcher's name is left anonymous.
Oh, man.
By the way, it was a 2-page letter, so skipping down to the bottom wouldn't have even gotten me to the anonymous part, but that's okay. This is because the writer of this letter represents all of those who are unhappy with you and your teaching this year? Well, first off, I would like to point out how extremely annoying you are as a teacher. And then you go on a little bit more detailed, but it's kind of, the context is lost, and you mentioned students. I don't want to mention any other students, so I'm going to move on. Secondly, I am not sure if you have noticed, but many people in your class are not doing well. This is by far my favorite line. I'm not pointing any fingers, but there is a reason why people are failing miserably in your class, and then you put a parentheses, then you write cough, you're teaching, cough. I mean, this is really gold, okay?
Oh my God.
Your class may even be the first time some of these students have ever been failing a class in their lives. Not only are your tests incredibly difficult, great line here, but you don't even want your students to succeed. I think it should flick a mental switch in your head when you notice that students that should be earning A's are earning C's, D's, or even F's. Maybe you should slow down, improve your teaching, not try to screw your students over, or maybe even spend more time reviewing. And then you end off, I understand that you may not care about anything I have tried to express in this letter. But be advised that I am sure that I am not the only one who feels this way. Sheer coincidence doesn't lead half a class of students to all complain, whether discreetly or openly. Please take everything I have pointed out and suggested to heart, and remember, this is a great part, and remember, I still respect you as a teacher and person. Signed, Anonymous.
Wow, I'm proud of me.
So take me back to that moment that you wrote that letter.
Dude, that must have been, I'm trying to put myself into the head of Sam from
Go back to Great Neck North.
12 years ago.
12 years ago in 10th grade.
I was probably so mad, dude, because, I've always done well in school, so I must have really been going through something. Like, this is probably my equivalent of, not punching you in the face, but really wanting to, and not wanting to get suspended.
Well, how do you punch a teacher in the face? You write him a letter like this.
Punch him with paper.
So I want to say before you continue on, teachers always like great letters the kids write them, like you were so inspirational or whatever. This is honestly my favorite letter I've ever gotten from a student. Genuinely. Wow. And I'll explain why later. But talk about who you were at that moment. If you could remember a little bit more. You said it was your way of punching me in the face, but was there anything else you could remember?
I don't know. I probably felt like personally marginalized by the bad grades I was getting in your class. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, fuck this guy. Like, who is he to all of a sudden come fuck up my grades?
Okay. You signed it anonymous. Everyone else in the class had been taking the test that period. You were the only one that was out for 73 minutes to write this letter. Did you not know I was going to figure out it was you? Do you remember that part of it?
I don't think you remember the best part. The best part is, as I had put the letter on your desk, and as I'm leaving your office, you were walking in. So we had a moment where we saw each other in your office.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I don't remember that part.
Oh, and I'm like, fuck. My whole dramatic effect was just blown.
Trust me, I would have known it was you, but that's really funny. Wow.
Oh, man.
Okay, so that's how you felt then. You end up staying in my class for some reason. You end up doing pretty well. So well, in fact, that you decided to take my class again the following year.
Dude, I wasn't in love with you. I needed the AP credits. That's it.
Is that all it was?
That's it.
So I actually read this letter every year to my students.
You're kidding.
No, I like I said, it's, you know what? Because I wanted students to almost feel like, you could feel sad and you can feel frustrated and you can even write me a stupid letter like this, right? But in the end, here's what you may not remember. You also wrote me another letter that was equally relevant to this letter after you graduated high school. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't.
Okay.
You got that one?
I do.
Oh, man.
No, because it's really meaningful. From the moment you wrote this letter, you've evolved as a person. A lot's happened in your life. Think about it, right? To that 10th grade guy. Then you take my class, it's junior year, AP Chem. You seem like you enjoyed yourself. It wasn't because of me. You needed the AP credits. All good. You could have taken AP Bio, but you chose AP Chem. Whatever you want to say about it wasn't about me. No, I'm kidding. But then you graduate high school. You go through some stuff we'll talk about, and then many years later, since you graduated high school, I get a text from you, and here's what the text says from Sam Esch. I hope all is well, my man. I'm taking a summer chem course to satisfy a requirement. I don't know where to start telling you about how easy this class is for me after taking your honors and AP Chem classes. I already know more than anybody in the class, and I often correct the professor on her own mistakes. Typical Sam, correcting the teacher. I was one of the bottom students in your class, but my grasp of the material is stronger than anybody here. To be honest, I'm surprised about how much of the material stuck in my head. For you, chem is just part of the daily job. For me, this has been an inspiring experience, and I tip my hat to your ability to connect with students in a way that facilitates learning. Whatever you've been doing, keep it up. I can't be the only one who considers you his favorite teacher in grade school. I think when a teacher makes a lasting impact on any student, he should learn about it. Nevertheless, I hope that everything is going well for you at school. Stay cool. It's your greatest asset. Later, Randy, and a peace sign emoji.
Wow, man. That's moving.
It really is moving.
That's moving.
Listen, the nice thing about that moment is you weren't getting anything. Like the first letter you wrote me, you were hoping I would change something.
Sure.
This letter was purely selfless, and it was just to tell me you were happy you had me in a way.
Yeah. I even mentioned in there, like if you did that good of a job of teaching, I feel like you deserve to know about it. Like someone's got to tell you. So I don't know if anybody else was telling you, but I felt like just in case I had to be the guy.
But do you see the comparison between those two letters and how those bookmarks of our relationship is so significant?
Yeah. Angry Sam from letter 1 probably didn't really know you.
Well, definitely didn't know me.
Definitely didn't know you.
Good point.
But I guess you must have changed quite a bit in between those letters. That
You think so?
Yeah, you must have.
How much could I have really changed? As a teacher, I stay the same and you guys move on in your life. So did I change? Or did your thoughts change about me?
I think it goes back to kind of the first thing we were talking about. Those moments of kindness that you drop to students when they need it and when they're least expecting it. And probably after your first 3 tests, I probably hadn't experienced a Randy Appel moment of kindness yet. One that I really needed. I feel like a neglected child.
Well, at the time you did. But imagine the power when you actually felt like I was there for you.
I'm like, wow, low-key nice. Low-key cares about me.
That's amazing. All right, so that's good. That kind of defines our relationship in a way, right? Like, sure. So let's then move on. I want to talk a little bit about who you were as this, in many ways, infamous guy in Great Neck North.
Sure.
And I hope it's okay that we talk about this.
Yeah.
Anything you want? Anything I want?
Anything's fair game.
Okay, good. So I want to, before we start, I want to take it back to a moment I remember in class that wasn't as meaningful as the letter, but it was a moment in junior year in AP Chem. I always talk about like what I did. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Did that mean something to you?
Yeah.
Why?
Because those are like moments of realness. Those are like human moments.
Okay. So I remember sharing, my parents have a place in Florida. They have a house in Florida, a vacation place, a small kind of place. But it was a place we went to a lot. And I would talk about like my trips, and I would talk about like different things I did, whether I went to Disney World or whatever. And I remember you said to me, I don't understand. You're a teacher and you go away a lot. I don't even go away a lot. How do you go away a lot? Like,
yeah.
Do you remember? You obviously don't remember that.
No.
And you almost looked like, not angry, but like frustrated. And listen, I don't know about your financial situation growing up. Great Neck's an interesting place. There's some very wealthy people. There's some very poor people and a lot in between.
Sure.
Where did you fall in that range?
Like you said, I think Great Neck has a lot of wealthy people, and I think those people kind of define a lot of what Great Neck is about. And growing up amongst them, I didn't have as much as some of the other kids. And I kind of always wanted to stay on par with the lifestyle and spending of some of the wealthier people.
I mean, it goes back to that comment, right? Like, you see me going to Florida these trips, and you were probably like, damn, like, I want to go away, but I want to go to Anguilla like all the other kids go. You know, I want to do all these things. So you had this, like, this drive to have money and be richer than you were.
Sure.
So then you're known as the leader of the SAT cheating scandal, right? You did a 60 Minutes interview. This is not like anything you're talking about for the first time, and it's not a secret. You cheated on the SATs.
Sure.
So can you generally tell me what that was? What did you do?
I was paid by people to take their SAT exams for them.
Okay. And that's, in and of itself, like, you come back to the kid that wants to make money. It's like, that's a very, in your case, very easy way to make money. Unethical, sure, but an easy way to make money. So if you could take me to the first moment this even became a thought. Do you remember that?
Yeah, very specifically. Me and a buddy of mine, whose name I won't mention, we were just hanging out, and I remember I had taken my SAT, and he hadn't even thought about taking his. But he, everybody knows they got to take their SAT. So my buddy is like, yo, I'm going to bomb this test. There's no way I'm going to do well. He's like, I wish you could just take it for me. And he said it as a joke, right? Because it's such an outrageous idea.
When was this?
Must have been late into sophomore year.
Oh, sophomore year.
Or maybe even early junior year. Right?
Okay.
And we kind of like had a little chuckle, like a half laugh about it. Like he said, maybe you should take my SATs for me. And neither of us laughed about it as if it was truly a joke. And then we're like, wait, maybe we should. Fast forward only about 15 minutes. And we're like, all right, bro, that's it. Let's just register. I'm going to take your test. And
wow.
And then we're square. It was an agreement between me, the student, and the parents.
Oh my God. Wow. The parents were in on it. That's a big thing. And, now, obviously, there's this big controversy in the news lately. It's not surprising to hear parents are involved. And it's actually, to be very honest, it's not surprising that parents are involved, even in this situation, because it's a high-stakes test. It's not like you're just taking a regular test for a kid. You're taking a test that, whether it should or shouldn't, matters a lot.
Sure. So on first glance, for some of these parents, paying somebody to take your kid's SAT might seem like a no-brainer, right? Because you don't really care if your kid learns enough to take the SAT and do well on it, because who gives a shit about that knowledge? Who cares about how well you're able to answer multiple choice questions on this test? More important to the parent is, how much am I spending, and what is my kid's score going to be at the end of the day? So the return is so much better.
Okay, so if you look at it from a return on investment, yeah, maybe you could say no-brainer. But you obviously see that it's not as black and white as it's just a return on investment kind of thing.
Sure. I think the biggest cost to a parent when they decide to pay somebody to take their kid's SAT is that they're teaching their own kids that it's okay to kind of cheat and be shady if it means you're getting ahead. And I think that's a dangerous lesson to teach kids.
That's exactly why it's not a no-brainer, right? Like,
sure.
you compare those two things you just said very profoundly, and they're so opposites. So that happens.
Yeah.
Take me through the first time you ever did it. Were you nervous? Like,
I was stone cold, man. I was not nervous at all.
Really?
Because I've been in when you take the SATs, it's either your first time taking it or your second or your third. And I'd already taken it, and I was in a room full of mostly people who hadn't taken it. And I looked around at them, and they were freaking out. They were nervous. But I've been here already. This is easy.
Was it at Great Neck?
This one was not in Great Neck.
Okay, so you knew enough not to take it at Great Neck.
Right.
Okay, so you go to this test. You don't care because you'd already taken your test. What did you get on your test?
The lowest I ever got was for myself. I got a 2090.
The lowest you ever got was for yourself.
So
a 2090 out of 2400 was the first time you took the test and the last time you took the test as Sam Eshaghoff.
I taken it another time afterwards, and that was the second lowest grade I ever got.
Wow. So
out of the innumerable times I've taken it, the two lowest were for myself.
Why? Did you need the pressure?
Maybe, I'm going to go back to the question you just asked. You said, how did it feel going to take that first test? Maybe it was an advantage to me to go in there like, kind of, I don't care. I'm just going to go take this test. It's not even for me. I know I'm smart. I'm just going to take it and I'll kill it. But when I go and take my own test, I'm like, holy shit, this is my future. I got to really be careful about every single question and double think and triple think everything I'm doing.
Do you realize how interesting that sounds?
Sure.
Right? So like when you're taking it for yourself, you feel the magnitude because you understand the significance of the test.
Sure.
And how it relates to you. When you're taking it for a friend or someone paying you, you'd think you'd have extra pressure because like it means something if you don't do well to that kid. Like you then have to retake it or whatever it means. But yet you felt more calm.
For sure, my attitude towards performance when I was taking it for somebody else didn't matter as much to me as when I was taking it for myself. The reason being, the people whose tests I were taking weren't particularly good students. And whether they got a 2400 or a 2300 or a 2200 or 2100, it was still an amazing score way beyond what they ever would have gotten. So, and I had a big margin of error when I was taking tests for these people who ordinarily wouldn't have done well themselves.
Got it. Okay, that actually, when you think of the psychology behind that, it actually makes a lot of sense. So you take this first test. Take me back to the moment you leave the room. Were you like, did you want to scream? Like, were you going to jump up?
I never told anybody this story. But my buddy, whose test I was taking, I leave the test, and first thing I do is call him. And his phone is going straight to voicemail. And I keep calling. And he's supposed to be my ride home. keep calling. The guy's not answering. I'm like, oh shit, we got fucked.
Oh, you thought something happened to him.
Like, it's so unusual for a guy not to answer his phone. I mean, he's got nothing. He's supposed to be out in the car waiting for me. And he's not answering. And I'm like, I'm pacing. I'm nervous. And I'm just walking around the school. And and this is a different high school, a place that I've never been to. But I'm wandering, not even sure if I'm trying to hide from somebody or not. And I go into the gymnasium of the school, and my buddy, who I'd taken his test for, is in there shooting basketball.
Oh my god!
And we have a big hug and a big laugh, and we're just like shooting hoops in this random gym for 45 minutes, and just like blasting Lil Wayne music on the way home.
That is. Wow. Just the visual of you leaving this test more anxious afterwards than you were the entire time you were doing something wrong, but just because of the anticipation, and the kid is playing like basketball, and then you start playing basketball, like you were just so carefree, right? Like you were so nervous before, but then you go shoot hoops, just like we
were in the driveway,
right?
It's what we would have been doing anyway,
right? And you didn't even think about it; you were just there. When you compare those two moments, that's just freaking unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a big relief.
So did you then, at that point, you must have felt, I'm inspired. I could do this.
Yeah, just like anything that that you do for the first time and you do well at, all of a sudden, you think you're an expert. You think, fuck it, I could do it 100 more times.
Okay, so then that was the first time. Mm-hmm. What'd the kid get?
He got a 2160.
I say what'd the kid get? What did you get?
He got a 2160 with a perfect score on the math section.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. And you hadn't gotten a perfect score on the math section?
No.
Wow, okay. So you get a 2160 for the kid. He's all excited. Does he tell people, like, how does the word get out now that Sam Esh is this guy who is the guy to call if you want to do this terrible thing?
Good question. Because going from the moment of the first test that I took to the nth test that I took, it kind of grew as an open secret. And I don't exactly know how it got there. I know there was definitely some word of mouth component. There was definitely me soliciting people who I thought would make for good clients. I definitely didn't try too hard to keep it a secret. Because I always thought that it was kind of a no big deal kind of thing. It's like, so what? You're cheating on a test? So I wasn't all too careful about keeping it an ultra secret.
So you don't see it as a difference between cheating on, let's say, an AP Chem test in my class by like showing kids answers and what you did?
Certainly the consequences are different. And in terms of what's at stake for the student. I never felt like I was doing anything more wrong than cheating on an ordinary test.
So that's kind of like the mindset that got you through it and didn't stop you and say, listen, this is a big freaking deal.
Sure.
Right? Like when you got arrested, and we'll get to that, but when you got arrested, I'm sure the magnitude of what happened kind of came down on you like a ton of bricks, or?
The arrest wasn't as impactful to me as was the public attention around the whole thing. Getting arrested, my lawyer made sure to let me know that it truly isn't that big of a deal. Because a lot of people also did agree that I was just cheating on a test. Listen, I know that it was wrong to do, but I never thought that I was committing a crime. And if I knew that it was a crime, I never would have done it.
What do you mean by that?
Like, if I knew that what I was doing was considered a crime, that would...
Like a crime, like a felony or a misdemeanor?
Anything. Like, I'm not the type of guy to want to be okay with getting into trouble with the law.
So you didn't realize the actual ramifications?
No, it's a total surprise to me. I find out there's a warrant for my arrest, and I'm like, what do you mean? What for? What did I even do? I had no idea. I'm like, oh, for the tests?
Really?
You're going to arrest me for cheating on the test? Since when is the SAT so official that, like, now the district attorney has to get involved in regulating it?
But there's also a difference between, like, cheating on an SAT by, like, like looking up a word and going back, or looking up a math concept and going back and changing an answer. Or looking at the person next to you and bubbling answers that they have on their test. That's the cheating that you're probably used to in school. Sure. That everyone's used to. Like, you never sat in a class in high school and took it for another person, but... like, what should the punishment be?
I don't know. I don't think it's a 1 second thing.
All right, so let's go back then, because I want to get to that point. I want the context to be more of all that you've done before that point. So you took this first test, you kind of got the word around through different means, and you were resourceful as you always have been. It's one of the things that makes you special in a way. You're a resourceful guy. Not, in this case, it turned out to be in a bad way, but like in other ways, you probably figured out ways to do well in other things that were not illegal. And it's a good trade if you could do it in an ethical way. So you start taking tests for people. So let's just go through some questions I had. Did anyone ever say to you, like, listen, I'm not that smart. Don't get me the 2200 or the 2100. Yeah. Get me like a 1780.
That's about half the clients said something like that.
And what did you do?
And I told them the truth that I don't know how many questions I have to get wrong specifically to get you the score that you want. And also, listen, I'm not going into every test getting a perfect score every time. Each question that I answer, I have a level of confidence in. So not only do I have to predict how many questions I have to get wrong in order to get the score that you want, but I also have to factor in my own confidence in answering the questions that I thought would be correct. So it's an impossible task. So I told all the clients the same thing. I'm going to go in and get the best score that I can. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it.
Right. So you weren't like selling it to like, listen, you weren't an expert on the art of getting a score that kids wanted. You were an expert on taking the test. It was, as you said, you were not afraid to sit in and take the SAT for someone and still be able to do well. Like, that's part of what was so unbelievable about what you did. So I know you took the test for a girl. I remember hearing that. It's like an interesting story. Yeah. Tell me about how that went.
It's 99% similar to taking the test for a guy, but just think about if your name was something unisex, like Alex, right, or Jesse. Same thing. I just go into the test.
You just bubble the female bubble instead of the male bubble.
I go into the test saying that I'm Alex or I'm Jesse or I'm whoever, and I save the gender box for last. And the last thing I do before I hand the test in is I fill in the gender box. The reason I wait to the end is because I don't want to have a bubble filled in that says female sitting on my desk for the whole duration of the exam, only to have a proctor come by and question me. Oh, you filled in the wrong bubble. It's supposed to say female. Now you have questions to answer.
Okay, so that's where the 99% of the same is.
Right.
It's not the only difference is you had to be conscious of not filling in that bubble and then making sure you filled in that bubble at the very end.
Exactly.
Okay. Wow. What about the signing of you have to, I remember at the end you have to like write in script. I certify that what I did was my own writing or whatever it was, right? Was there something like that?
Yeah, so you just do it.
You just do it.
Listen, I knew that what I was doing was wrong, and I knew that it was cheating, and a little certification at the end of the exam was not going to make me second guess what I was doing or I'm not going to read that and say, oh shit, you're right. It's supposed to be my own work. I can't do this. We got to throw the whole test out. No,
I got you. Okay, that's fair.
So it was that last signature at the end was just me owning up to everything I was doing. I think it's a good thing that they actually have that because you it kind of forces you to confront and admit that you're doing something wrong. Like if you are actually signing that, then you know what you're doing is wrong.
Okay, so that's fair. So you did feel the magnitude to a degree of it.
Sure.
Okay. What was the range of money you got for tests?
I may have done it as a favor for like $800. Or there's a couple of people I took it for who I didn't know at all. Strangers. Hey, I heard about you through this friend, through that friend. And one of those students actually paid the best. He paid me $2,500, and then when he found out what his score was, he gave me a tip of $1,100 that I wasn't expecting.
Wow. Where do these kids get that money, you think?
Maybe they take it from their parents. Maybe their parents let them take it. Maybe, I know at least a couple of them had saved up. And this is what, for a high school kid to have a few $1,000s of disposable income is pretty significant. And there are at least a few people who consciously chose to spend all their savings on somebody taking their SAT. It was that important to them. Like they emptied their bank account for it. For an 18-year-old kid, is there any bigger decision than where you're going to go to college?
Right. No, that's it. Exactly. That is
is there anything more worth putting everything on the line for?
Okay, so that brings up another kind of like topic, and I'm not sure you're an expert on this as someone who did this and then went to 2 different schools, but like I think about the parents in my town where I live. I think about the parents in Great Neck over the years. There's such a sense of pride when a kid gets their SAT scores back. And I wonder if, of course you need to get the score to get into a good school. That's obvious. But there's also like the moms and dads talking to each other about how their kids did. You hear the celebrities, Lori Loughlin and whatever the other one from Desperate Housewives, Felicity Huffman, they did this because they just wanted their kids to be as advantaged as their life has already given them an advantage to be.
For some people, they need the score because they need to get into a good college because that's their only pathway to making a living for themselves one day.
Right.
But like you said, for celebrities, they don't need the money. They're doing it for a different reason.
Right.
There's like a social pressure. And some people have both.
Right.
They need the money and they have a social pressure. So just when you thought the stakes couldn't get higher, they dial it up.
Well, that's the thing, exactly, because even getting into a good college these days, it doesn't, it matters. It's good to be, to say you went to Michigan or Harvard or whatever, but like, it's more for the same reason you felt good taking the test. These parents feel good saying their kids went to Michigan or Harvard.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Like, it's interesting to compare those two things, like
different ends, but the same means.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, I was just curious, like, when you heard about these celebrities paying not thousands, not $1,800 in a tip, but I imagine a celebrity would have found a kid like you and paid you $25,000, $50,000. Do you almost feel like you missed out?
Oh, man. I always think about that if I had been doing what I've been doing today as a kid.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, my God. I'd be like, if the whole timeline had just been pushed out 10 years.
Right.
Forget the amount of money I would have made, getting paid to take people's tests. The Instagram fame and like the level of notoriety and the ease of monetizing those type of things nowadays, would have blown the testing fees out of the water.
It's really unbelievable when you think about that. So, do you...
although I will say, I'm glad that things unfolded the way they did at the time that they did, because I'm afraid that nowadays that sort of notoriety would have defined who I am, and I'm very glad to have come out the other side a very different person.
At this time in your life, at this time in the world.
That's right.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't want to be the SAT guy.
Okay. You were taking the test as a junior in high school. That's when it started, right?
Yeah.
So you took it junior year, senior year, then you went off to college. Where'd you go to college?
Michigan.
You went to Michigan?
I went to Michigan.
Wow, Wolverine. But I heard you flew home sometimes to take the test?
Yeah, I spent most of my weekends during my enrollment at Michigan outside of Michigan because there was still demand for SATs in New York. So it made economical sense for me to fly back every weekend.
Wow.
And take a new test for somebody else.
There's a lot of deceit in this process, obviously. Were you ever nervous?
No, I don't know why I wasn't nervous. I felt pretty untouchable back then. Childish Superman complex.
Okay, that's fair. Then you get caught. How'd you get caught?
I don't know how I got caught, but I was going to school. I had transferred, and I was going to school at Emory at the time.
You transferred from Michigan?
Yeah.
Why?
Just wasn't if you're not there enjoying the frat life and football games.
You missed the best part about Michigan, the football season.
Yeah, I missed it, yeah.
Oh my God. Listen, I went to Michigan, so I know that I wasn't even a football fan before I went to Michigan. Then I went to Michigan, and it's like, it's like crazy to think you missed that, but I get it. Okay, so you transfer to Emory, and then what happens?
Then I got a phone call from my mom. Sam, you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. What's going on, Mom? She goes, they're looking for you. I'm like, who's looking for me? She goes, I don't know. The district attorney says there's a warrant for your arrest.
Did she know about what you did?
No.
So no one in your family knew what you did?
No.
Wow. So was she like, what is going on?
Yeah, she had no idea.
So you're at Emory, you're in Atlanta.
You're right. I called the family lawyer, and he's like, yeah, either they're going to come look for you, or you fly to New York and you surrender yourself on Tuesday.
How did they know you were involved?
I have no idea.
Oh, to this day, you still don't know how you got caught?
I have no idea.
Really?
There must, I'm sure that someone must have informed them, and they run some sort of an investigation.
Well, I'll tell you a story that I heard as a teacher. Because I was in Great Neck North at the time, you know? So here's the story I heard. And I don't know if there's any truth to it because, you hear a lot of stories. There's a kid who I'm not going to mention the name, but this kid got an 800 on his math SATs. And this kid was bragging about how he got his 800. But he also failed math. He was a very bad math student. So this kid who fails math gets an 800 on the SATs. Clearly the secret is not as secretive as well, even you didn't make it that much of a secret on your own admission. So the rumor was the principal looked into it and realized how big it got, or realized it was a thing and called the authorities. I don't know if that's true.
Sounds plausible. The fact that the guy was bragging that he got an, I think it just kind of reinforces that nobody really thought it was that big of a deal. People were just talking about it.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I cheated on a test. Funny, right?
God. What did your parents say when they found out what was actually going down?
They're disappointed, man. They, it's like, you're a parent. Imagine you find out your kids aren't old enough to be they're not selling drugs, right?
They're not selling drugs. And it's funny, I was going to have my daughter take the bio SAT 2 this year. And the process is so different now. You need to send in a picture. Like, do you feel responsible that you have almost single-handedly, your situation at least, changed the whole security process of the SATs?
Yeah. But at the same time, if I didn't do it, somebody else would have done it. It was only a matter of time until somebody figures out you could cheat on it.
Right. Especially how easy it was.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. So, all right. So let's go back. Your parents are really disappointed. You have siblings, right? I had your younger brother, Dave.
Yeah.
Great guy. Didn't have your other two. I think you have another younger brother and a younger sister. I got along with Dave, and I never sensed he was kind of embarrassed by the process of being Sam Esch's brother in a way.
Sure.
But do you get that could have been a real thing, that your siblings were almost embarrassed to be in the school as Sam Esch's brother or sister?
Yeah, that actually, that's what ate me up the most at night. That, everybody makes mistakes, right? And usually you're the only person who has to suffer the consequences of your own mistakes. But for me, I feel like my own family was collateral damage. I come from a culture where families are really important.
Right.
So it's not just lectures from my parents. It's also aunts, uncles, grandparents.
I've had your whole family. I actually really enjoy the Eshaghoff whole group. Matt.
We like it too.
But yeah, so what was it like with all those people?
So we do Shabbat dinner every Friday, and we have it's kind of like structured family time.
Yeah.
But you could bet that like week after week after week, I'd be, hey Sam, come here, let's have a talk, and it would be my grandpa or whoever it was that week.
But what were they saying to you? Like, take me back to the most profound conversation that you had that made you feel so bad. Or
I didn't need the lectures because I knew what I did was wrong.
Right.
So for me, I was just another kid getting another lecture. I was kind of tuning it out, but
right.
I guess the most important points that my family wanted me to know, that it was important to straighten the ship and make sure that it was headed on the right path.
Okay.
And from a parent's perspective, it's more important to know, not that whether your kid cheated or took his test legitimately, but whether your kid is headed down the right road. Because, the transgressions of today are paltry when you think of the grand scheme. Where is my kid going to end up? Is he learning that a life of bad ethics is acceptable?
But you talked about how bad you felt for your siblings. Like, I want to just like...
I'm not in the classroom when my younger brother is maybe or maybe not getting teased by his friends about, oh, your brother was on the news.
Right, exactly.
And he didn't sign up for that.
Yeah.
It was tough for me to live with. That my little sister would get picked up on the school bus to go to, it must have been elementary school at the time, and there were cameras and reporters snapping pictures of my little sister getting on the bus.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like, oh man, this is, I felt tremendously guilty.
So you realized the magnitude, not just of the legality, but of also its impact on your family.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
I've done the best I could since then to reinvent myself and become as good of a person as I can be, and kind of just make it up to them just by virtue of my own change. Only a few minutes ago I described myself as an untouchable Superman kid in high school, but I feel very different from that kid today. I feel like I've grown a lot, and new things are important to me now, and I just try to be the best brother and son and person I can be.
So do you regret what you did?
I try not to regret anything. You got to look at everything as leading up to bringing you to where you are today.
100%.
I think it's opened some doors for me. I think...
How so?
A lot of people know me before I know them. A lot of times people already know me as being a smart guy without me having to actually prove it to them, which kind of fast forwards a lot of relationships for me. Just personal and friends and just people I meet. I'm sure a lot of the jobs that I've gotten over the years had in part to do with my reputation of being a smart guy. It totally ruined the vision of a career that I had for myself to start with. I was on track to go to the best business school in the country at the time. I was looking forward to being an investment banker.
Oh wow!
And the doors to that world shut on me very hard. And getting a job in finance has a lot to do with compliance and as a fiduciary, you need to be viewed as responsible and caring for other people's money. So for me, a lot of firms didn't even want me in the building. It's bad optics. It's
right.
People look me up. Even just if I'm copied on an email and someone says, "Hey, let me look up Sam Eshaghoff," and all these garbage articles come up, it reflects poorly on the firm. So actually, I get it.
You talk about how you feel really bad for your family, but when you had to change careers, how did that fall into like the list of things you felt bad about?
I didn't feel too bad about it. I just said, all right, this is the new reality. Circumstances are different. We got to pivot and we got to figure out a new path. You
didn't write a letter like you wrote to me to all the owners of the investment bank saying, how could you?
Just for you,
a punch in the face to them. So what was the ultimate penalty and / punishment for what happened?
Legally?
Yeah, legally.
Fines and community service.
Fines and community service. Okay, no jail time.
No jail time.
Were you worried about having to go to jail?
I was worried, yeah, because a lot of the articles talked about these offenses carry a maximum penalty of up to 4 years in prison.
Wow.
And I'm like, me? Prison? 4 years? Like, what? I just cheated on a test.
So what's so weird is how can someone so smart not understand how illegal and what the consequences might have been for something like this? Like, I want to just get into the mind of who you were at that time. Like, I get like the junior in high school not realizing it, and almost the senior in high school. But when you're flying back and forth from Michigan or Emory, how did you not understand how significant what you were doing really was?
To me, it was still just cheating on a test. And it was also, it's an unprecedented crime, Nobody had, not to my knowledge, has anybody been arrested for taking the SATs for somebody or cheating on any test. So this was new for me. This was new for the prosecutor. This is uncharted waters. So I'm sure they're like, damn, what are we going to get this kid for?
Got it. Okay.
Fraud? Is he going to get him for scheme? What are we going to get him for? Because we've never done this before.
Got it. And then, it's interesting because a lot of people got arrested since your situation.
I won't pretend like I was the first person to ever do this. I'm sure there's a million people who have done it before me. I know Derrick Rose, the basketball player, admits that somebody took his SATs.
You hear about Trump. People saying someone took the... Who knows?
Listen, the SATs are so important that unless you make it hard enough to cheat on, people are going to find a way to cheat on it. It's like, imagine the door to the bank vault was open with no combination and it was facing the public sidewalk. Somebody's going to figure out a way to cheat.
It's an interesting perspective.
I'm sure it's happened dozens of times before me. And I'm sure I'm sure it even continues to happen.
What would Sam Esch do if you walked past the bank vault right now?
I know better, and I would probably cross the fucking street. I
don't
want to be near it. I don't even want an errant camera catching me in the vicinity of the vault.
Okay, that's good. Listen, and that's where you are now. I mean, that's who you are and who you became. Do you wish you could go back to the conversation you had with that original kid when you were talking about taking his test. And I know you said you don't regret it in the sense that you're happy with where you are in your life, and I want to talk about that also. But like, if you could go back to that conversation and when that kid said, maybe you could take the test for me, do you wish you said, yeah, right, and walked away?
I think that's the same as saying, do you regret it? And I don't regret it.
So you, all things being equal, you would go through the same process that you went through because it led you to where we are right this very moment.
Well, yeah, because, I think everybody, I like my story. I like my journey and how far I've come. And I'm very proud of myself. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
All right, so let's talk about what you're doing right now.
I'm in real estate now. And like I mentioned to you, I wanted to be in finance, but that world wouldn't have me. So I had to think of another way to use my entrepreneurship to make money. Because, like you said earlier, like making money has always been like important to me. So I'm in real estate, and I found that the niche that I'm really good at, that I really love, is what I'm doing now in real estate development.
Huh.
I identify opportunities to create value and add value to real estate, and it's very rewarding.
Good. So I want to go back to that moment in class where you're questioning my vacationing, where I call it the vacation envy, Samesh.
Okay.
Was that the real motivation for this? Like, when you think about like a high school kid, like so here's the things that I imagine could have been going through a mind of a kid like you. I'm going to make money. I'm going to get this odd kind of respect in a way. And I'm just going to be that guy that like is, quote unquote, the man who's doing this thing that a lot of kids are not doing. So what was the motivation for you?
Yeah, for young Sam, I feel like that was an element. That was part of it. The what you call it, weird respect.
Yeah, just like that, that like different, that unique respect.
Yeah. School was always easy to me. I was bored.
Wait, school was always easy to you? I have a letter that shows the difficulty.
There was a problem with the teacher. Remember, the teacher was the issue. So this was a unique challenge for me. It was validation. Every time you get your score back and you do well, you're like, damn, that's another one.
Oh, so it was
did it again.
It was feeding your ego in a way.
Yeah, I guess so.
So it sounds like what it really was you found you were good at something. Okay? You knew it probably crossed the line, right? You didn't know how much it crossed the line.
Right.
But you found that you were good at something, and you just, you were making money, so that was a good thing. But it was also stroking this ego of yours that like, yo, this is like, I found this thing that makes me special.
That was definitely part of it. It felt good, just like getting a pat on the back after anything feels good.
Right. Wow. And the money too, was that a big, was money really?
I mean, it was a meaningful amount of money for a kid.
What'd you do with that money?
Funded my own lifestyle. I stopped asking my parents for money when I was about 17 or 18. I said, Mom and Dad, you don't have to worry about me anymore.
Did they know? They didn't know why. They were just like,
no, I gave them other reasons. I told them, I had some money saved up from working.
Oh.
Maybe they knew this part, that I was writing essays for other people and doing people's homework and projects, and that was another hustle I had.
What was the most glamorous thing you used the money for? Like, what was like the coolest thing you look back? Like, I could never have done this if I didn't have all this money. So I'm kind of, even though I regret, well, you don't regret, but even though like it was bad, at least I got to do this.
Like the rock star stuff?
Yeah, like what was the rock star stuff you did?
I don't know. I would go to the vacation in Miami, buying bottles at clubs. Like, I'm disgusted with this now, but I was like pimping my car out, putting like different shit in my car.
Those are the things that high school kids and just out of high school kids care about.
Yeah.
So when you think back though, like, does this conversation bring back bad memories? Like, because I don't know how often you talk about this.
It comes up all the time.
Oh, it does.
And people always ask me, like, wait, are we, is it okay that we talk about it? Like, should we not? And I tell everybody the same thing. I'm like, it's fine that we talk about it. It's actually really easy for me to talk about because I feel like it was almost a different person, a different version of me that was going through these experiences. I don't feel like the same person now.
Yeah.
I really feel like it was a different person, like somebody that I knew. Like, I don't feel like it was me.
Well, okay, it's interesting you say that. You did a 60 Minutes interview. You're now talking to me. Who knows if anyone will listen to what we're talking about. Hopefully they will. Was there almost an intrigue about being the guy that gets 1 million, 2 million views on YouTube at, the 60 Minutes interview? My kids talk about it in school now, still. Like, is there any intrigue there for you as a guy who doesn't like being the SAT guy, but is the SAT guy? and you are notorious.
At the time, I'm like, I had every TV show in the country calling me. I think
really?
Dr. Phil, like, personally left a voicemail on my house voicemail. And, like, Good Morning America, every show wanted me on. I chose to be on 60 Minutes because I thought it was the most prestigious of all the TV shows. And I wanted an opportunity to kind of do some damage control on my reputation.
Do you think you did through that 60 Minutes interview?
Looking back on it now, I think I came off as kind of a jerk.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, and we're being honest the whole time.
Sure.
The takeaway that I heard from people who didn't know you was that you came across as a little arrogant, and you didn't come off as the guy who was doing damage control.
Right.
So how do you feel about that?
I wish I could have, done it differently.
So now we're talking, right? Why are we talking? Why are you talking to your old high school teacher about this situation?
I think just plain simply, I don't talk to many people about it, but I like you, so you want to talk about it? I said, all right.
So do you hope a lot of people listen to this? And, I mean, listen, you came across as a guy who started his career as this schemer in a way, right? And now you've come across a guy who ethics is one of the most important things to you, and I feel that. So
I'll say we're doing a lot of talking about right and wrong.
Yeah.
And doing a lot of playing devil's advocate. I just want to be, and I think you know this, and everybody who knows me knows this, that I don't advocate for any sort of cheating or, underhanded ways of, gaining advantage. And matter of fact, it's taught me important things about being a good guy and maintaining good reputation. So on the topic of reputation, I've learned one of the things I'm fortunate to have learned from all this whole experience is that the best way to uphold a good reputation is to just be a good guy. In all your everyday interactions, when people are looking and when people aren't looking. And everybody inside knows what it means to be good and what it means to be bad. And if you want to be a good guy, you quite simply just have to be a good guy. That's it in everything you do. If people listen to this recording right now and form an opinion of me, I hope it's a good one. Because in everything I do, I really, really try to be a good guy.
Well, so it's interesting because I think back to the guy who wrote me that first letter, right? If we can make this whole thing come full circle from that perspective, I think back to the guy who wrote me that first letter. He was a guy, a 10th grade kid who was probably very similar to his junior and senior year kid in a way. He was the kind of kid who saw a situation and he tried to, obviously, you tried to get me to change. You wrote me this letter, but writing me a letter was the easy way out almost. You were the guy that didn't take responsibility for that first few tests, right? You could have done so many things, but you wrote me a letter, right? And it symbolized who you were at that time. That same guy was the guy that found out a way to, make some money by being unethical, as you say now, and you did it. You didn't hesitate, right? You said it. It took 15 minutes for you to make that decision to decide to become the guy who would sit down and cheat on his SATs. So those two characters line up very nicely, right? The guy who wrote me that letter and the guy who cheated on his SATs. Sure. Then we fast forward many years from the time you became the guy that cheated on his SATs to where you faced consequences. Your family life changed in a negative way. You had to pivot on your job. You had to change, frankly, everything about who you are as an ethical person. And you actually say to me right now, you're a changed guy. And do I believe you or not? Do people listening to this believe you or do they not? Well, the evidence that I have, and I would say, is go back to that next letter, right? It's almost poetic that you sent me that second letter and you were so selfless and you were so not the same kid, right? Like I said, there was no reason to write that letter other than to just be that good guy you were saying you are. So whether or not, people believe you as a person from your 60 Minutes interview, whether they believe you now, those two bookends of our relationship actually do show change.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful, and I'm proud of it.
How does it feel to know that I could symbolically show or poetically show the change you made?
Well, I know deep down how far I've come.
Right.
So I don't need proof. But those letters were good validation.
For anyone listening.
Sure.
Because they're real. You didn't write that letter hoping that in 10 years I'd have a podcast and I'd be interviewing you about how you've changed.
You're right.
So in that sense, I'm really happy to hear that. So it must make you feel good in some ways.
I'm glad you got them.
Me too. This podcast that I started is called High School Matters because, I believe high school shapes people and things that happen in high school matter. Clearly to you, your high school situation definitely had an impact on who you became and who you are right now, right?
Sure.
So when you think back to high school, you said you think fondly. I imagine you walked through the halls as, as you said, as this cowboy, because, that's part of like who you were at the time. But can you pinpoint specific high school situations that really shaped who you became?
Randy, we've done a lot of talking about a lot of things. We talked about cheating and right and wrong and personal development. But I think you're just trying to deny that the reason I needed to make money was to keep up with your vacationing habits. And the reason I needed to consistently score high on exams is because you failed me on my honors chem test.
There's no better way to make this come full circle than to bring it back to that. That's unbelievable. Well, this is great. I had a lot of fun doing this. I always enjoy these conversations. I hope you did too.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll stay in touch.
Pleasure, Randy.
All right, man. What a guy. All right, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of High School Matters. Thanks again to my guest and former student, Sam Eshaghoff. If you enjoyed this conversation, please rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen, and tell all of your friends to rate and review it too. Every positive review helps new listeners find the show, so spread the word and subscribe. I want to see those 5 stars. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, send me a DM at hsmatterspod, or you can send me an email the old-fashioned way at hsmatterspod@gmail.com. High School Matters was created, produced, and edited by yours truly, your host, Randy Appel. Consulting producer is John Fuss. Our music is written and performed by me and is produced by Lee Tepper. High School Matters is, and always has been, a Bellston production. 88766 signing off. I hope everyone enjoyed.